Are there a lot of black people in Iceland?
No, it's not as diverse. 5 black people in Iceland.
Y'all, a new batch of couples have landed on the scene for 90 Day The Other Way. I think I'm gonna enjoy this season. They are offering a flair of chaos that I think was missing in the franchise. I'll be sharing my first impressions from episode 1. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, the newest season, season 6, and boy, oh boy. They have a lot going on, you guys. So the way that I'm going to break it down is I'm going to give you the quick intro of each couple, as well as what I think their red flags / plot points this season will be, okay? Before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let's jump right in. So we have James from Maine and Meitalia from Indonesia. She goes by Tata, but I think Meitalia is a beautiful name. James is an elevator mechanic. He works in his family business. And from what we've seen from Meitalia, she's a small business jewelry maker. Beautiful. Meitalia is from Indonesia. And when she was back home, she helped her family making banana chips. But they've been together for about 5 years, married for 2.5. They met on social media. He was a photographer on a trip in Indonesia, and she was modeling and also acting at the time. He slipped into her DMs, and she loved his weirdness, and here they are together. She came to America on the K-1 visa. I should mention that he proposed to her 5 days after meeting, okay? And I mean, I guess something worked because they've been together this long, but they've been living in Maine, and she's struggling. Not only is she homesick, she's also experiencing a lot of physical illnesses. From what it sounds like to me, I think there's some thyroid issues, and I'm not sure why they weren't able to get that solved here. But she's saying that she has a lump in her throat and it's affecting her swallowing. She looks really small, so I'm sure that's affecting her appetite. And they haven't been able to get an answer from a doctor here. And so she's confident that she'll be able to get the remedy for it in Indonesia. And they've been trying, and they just haven't been able to get her to health. And she really wants to be healthy because she wants to start a family with James. So this is where we meet them in their story, okay? But now let's get into the red flags. And there are a few, okay? Because they look like a very cute couple, and they are. But there is a lot underneath, okay? So first up is the secrecy around their move, okay? They have told no one that they are going back to Indonesia. Not a soul, okay? So the plan is that she's going to go first, and then that he's going to follow a month and a half after, okay? And he has not told his family. This is a decision that he made, and she didn't really agree to, but she's like, I didn't really feel like I had a choice. And he's really soft with her, and he's like, I didn't realize that you didn't realize that you had a choice. And it's a whole emotional conundrum, right? But her thing is, I'm afraid that they're going to think that I'm taking their son away and that they're not going to like me, and that's going to cause other problems, especially because this wasn't my decision to take you away without a warning, which is so startling. And James recognizes that they're going to feel abandoned by this. But his thing, which I think also sends major alarms in my head, is that he's like, I'm afraid to tell them that this is our plan, because what if they tell me to stop working? So I'm like, wait, James, your family would basically leave you without a way to make money? They would kick you out of the family business? I think that there is other dynamics at play that you're not sharing and are a big deal. Because you're going to leave eventually, right? So this is going to blow up in your face regardless. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And mind you, they're having this particular conversation at a record store, and it's getting heated to the fact, it's getting so heated that other people are listening in. And I love that the camera panned to this woman being like, I'm just going to be here looking at vinyls, but also listening to the tea. It was so funny. But yeah, it's a very heated conversation. I'm honestly shocked that they would be having it in public, because Meitalia is yelling at this point at the record store. And she's just like, I'm afraid that I'm gonna go to Indonesia by myself and that when you tell your family, they're not gonna let you go. And again, I need to know more about this family dynamic because he's a grown ass man. What do you mean they're not gonna let him go to Indonesia to his wife? You know? It's hard to gauge really what the deal is because it's only been episode 1, but so far I do feel true love from them and devotion. And when she tells him that she's afraid that he's not going to go, he's like, my world revolves around you. Nothing would stop me from going to you. And I was like, James, are you writing for Hallmark?
Can you see it in my perspective?
Nothing's gonna stop me from coming to you. My whole life revolves around you.
But to wrap up the secrecy red flag, you guys, have we not learned our lesson? Stop keeping secrets. You want to make grown-up decisions. Stand firmly in your decision. Stop keeping secrets. The most recent example of this is Patrick and Thais. Thais hid from her father that she was coming on the K1 visa. And now her dad is like, Patrick needs to kiss the ring. He never asked for my blessing. He stole my daughter and now she's there with a granddaughter. And it's like, sir, your daughter is a grown woman that made this decision. But of course, the blame is never going to go to their child. It's much easier to put all that hate and disappointment to the partner. So it's like, stop doing this to your people. You're setting them up for failure. Please. The next red flag for James and Meitalia is the money issues. He is the main breadwinner for their household and he really loves his job and he says it pays really well. She designed some jewelry and they're beautiful, by the way. Like, I would wear them. They're similar to the ones I wear. But that doesn't pay, I think, a big dent in their bills. And so he's used to that kind of independence, which he's not going to have right away in Indonesia. And right now they kind of made it seem like they're just going to work at her family's banana chip company. But I don't know if that's going to make enough to support them and to also provide for the home that they're going to be living in. And I think that being an elevator mechanic is so part of his identity. I don't know if he'll be able to give that up for that long. And I think it's really going to be a test in their relationship. I just don't know if working for her family business will be as sustainable for him, you know? But the next issue is the baby aspirations, okay? From the start, Meitalia has expressed that she wants to get healthy because she wants to start a family with James, right? And in one of their last few days in America, well, her last few days in America, one of her friends comes over and they're making jewelry together. And she reveals to her friend in this conversation, hey, I haven't told anyone, but you should know I'm going back to Indonesia tomorrow. And the friend is like, and she expands on their health situation. And she's like, but yeah, I just need to get healthy because I really want to have a baby. And her friend Adele is like, is James on board with that? Because last time we spoke, he said that he wasn't really ready for a kid. And Meitalia, who we're going to get to later, is jealous and also needs to be the center of James' universe. Meitalia is like, he said that? Why did he say that to you? When did he say that to you? Adele shares that they were all hanging out, and at one point, I guess Meitalia went to the bathroom, and James like shared discreetly that like he was nervous about taking that kind of step. He didn't really specify why, but he just said that. And in that moment, Adele thought that this was something that Meitalia already knew, but she didn't. But now she's learning that they hadn't had that conversation, and so Adele's like, if I would have known that he hadn't had that conversation with you, I would have told him. And Meitalia just starts breaking down. This girl cries a lot. She breaks down and she's just like, why wouldn't he tell me that? We're making all these plans. This makes me feel like he's not going to come to Indonesia after all. What if there's more that he's hiding?
No, he said don't have a kid. Do you? What the?
So yeah, clearly that's a big point of contention in their relationship if they're on different pages about starting a family, okay? But I've talked about it a little bit. Let's get into the next red flag, which is the behavioral concerns. So when they were presenting them to us, we saw that he's a little quirky and she looks like mousy and quiet and cute, but homegirl has some fire, okay? She's jealous and he knows it, okay? She's like, don't play with me. I need to be the center of your orbit, okay?
She's told me several times, you ever cheat on me, I will take your
Why are you laughing?
because it's so scary and I get so nervous.
And at one point she did warn us. She was like, yeah, you know, I cry a lot. I go from 0 to 100. And y'all, she was not lying. That girl was crying every single scene. It was exhausting. My head hurt watching it. I felt like my blood pressure go up because I'm like, babe, it's not that serious. Take a breath and take a few aspirins. Some can say that they balance each other out, but I'm not too sure about that. So another moment that comes to mind is the morning that she was getting ready to leave to Indonesia. As you guys remember, she had that conversation the day before with her bestie who told her that her man actually is not too sure about having kids, okay? So she's trying her best not to talk about it because she wants to leave to Indonesia on good terms, but she looks like a pressure cooker, you know? She's just holding it all in and just going through the motions. However, James has his own guilt in the back of his head, and so he unfortunately ruins that forced zen because he's like, hey, there's something I've been keeping from you. And the way that he's like folding as he's telling her this and is trying to be so cautious, and it's almost like you're telling something to a child that's going to have a tantrum. I think that in itself is very telling, that visual, and just the way that they're like this close to each other. It's like, whoa, Bella and Edward, relax. It's giving that, like that intensity and that like anything you do is gonna tear my world apart energy. Do you guys get that? Because I was like, are we okay? Anyway, he's closed in and he's like, Jojo, their dog, their cute, really cute dog, Jojo is not going to be able to go with us right away. And she immediately is like, he's like, Jojo's not going to be able to go with us right away. I know it was my job to look up shots and things like that. Apparently the situation with dogs in Indonesia is really dire. Like, they can get rabies really easily. The minute dogs show any signs of sickness or like COVID or whatever, they euthanize them. It's a very delicate time to bring a pet, and it's better to wait it out than to bring them right away and have something traumatic like that happen. Y'all, he explained it to a T, okay? He should have told her before, but he knows his wife, and boy, oh boy, did this strike her like there had been a death in the family. Why would you tell me this now? How could you do that? Just yelling at him in rage. And y'all, I know that pets are family. I know that pets are important. And she expands on the fact that James works a lot and that Jojo was her one companion. That is her, you know, that is her everything, her baby. And she doesn't know if she's ever going to have an actual baby. So Jojo is her baby. I think that's a lot to project on a dog. And again, behavioral stuff that we need to unpack. But the way she reacted, I think, was very alarming because he's not telling her the dog is never going to go. I think he wants to go to Indonesia, scope out the situation for himself, and then figure out a timeline. He's not saying never. And also, it's better to see your dog alive through pictures and video chat than have him with you in Indonesia and have him Yeah, the way that she was wailing and clinging on to James, I was like, babe, you need to get a grip. This can't be healthy. And my thing is, stress really does a number in your body. And I'm wondering if this is how she is all the time, because that could also be triggering whatever symptoms she's experiencing. All of that is connected. So yeah. All of that was really alarming to me. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe it's just because the stress of the move, but the way that James was reacting around it, I have a feeling that this is her all the time, and I'm scared for her and him. So yeah, that was our first couple. Let's move on to the next, Shekinah and Sarper. I am so upset that they are on our screens again, and I don't know if I'll cover them beyond this, but I thought it was important to at least touch on what their vibe is this season. Yeah, so we have the displeasure of seeing them again. We literally walk into them having a schmexy video call where Shekinah is in full Betty Cooper wig. If you watch Riverdale, you know the reference. She's wearing that wig. Just to cover the basics, Shekinah is an esthetician from California, and Sarper is a personal trainer from Turkey. The last time we saw them, Shekinah had attempted a move to Turkey, and it failed because Sarper is a proclaimed bad boy, and he had remnants of his bad boy all over his apartment. Y'all remember that crusty headboard and the many alcohol bottles, and just so much in their relationship was forced. He was the worst to her, and Shekinah's family had a hard time seeing it, and they were vocal about it, to the point that Shekinah is now estranged from her sister and her family, and he is her world, okay? But again, part of the reason that she left Turkey initially is because he is a womanizer. This man proudly, multiple times, has admitted to sleeping with 2,500 women. Yes, 2500, and counting if we're being honest. So their update is that she lives in Turkey now, but comes back to America every 5 weeks because she can't really practice in Turkey. She's not licensed there. And they're having money woes in Turkey, so she has to come back to make some money. And yeah, so he's apparently having a hard time staying faithful, which is why she's constantly in his face, because they just have many issues when they're apart. And so to help remedy their psychotic issues, she's also applied for the K-1 visa to bring him to America, because she thinks that this will fix all the relationship problems, including their financial ones, right? But now let's get into the red flags / possible plot points this season. First one being money. So when we see Sarper and he's having a conversation with his cousin, who, by the way, hates Shekinah, her face when he mentioned that she was coming to town was very telling, okay? In this conversation with his cousin, we find out that the reason that he's struggling with money is because Shekinah doesn't allow him to have female clients, which are 90% of his clientele, so he says. So that's 90% of his income. And because he still likes to be the macho man and he wants her to be his puppet, he still has to provide somewhat, you know? So he was the one that provided her round-trip flight. But this is going to become an issue. The next red flag is the trust issues, which they're going to have to die and be reborn again to get rid of those. So when he doesn't answer the phone right away, she starts going crazy and starts questioning him. This is according to Sarper, right? Shekinah's like, I'm just asking him because I think it's weird that he's texting me all day and then he just disappears for a few hours. She's like, he needs to prove to me that he really is the reformed bad boy that he says he is. And the thing is, that would probably work with another sucker. It's not going to work with Sarper, who feels like I don't have to prove anything to you. And so he's like, you're killing my vibe with the bitchiness. So much so that he has broken up with her a few times because she's dared to question him. And Shekinah's like, yeah, he breaks up with me, but then he comes back later spiraling and crying and apologizing. And I am like, oh my God, Y'all are way too old for this. And you can tell that she's loving that little bit of power that she gets. They're different sides of the same coin. So yeah, the trust issues are at another level and they manifest into possessiveness. The possession is definitely on both sides, right? She monitors him and clocks him wherever he is. She needs access to him at all times. And she in turn cannot be active in social things anymore in LA. And her friends have noticed and are really upset by it because they're like, this is unlike you. We don't see you anymore. But yeah, he doesn't allow her to partake in social events so she could be with other men. But another thing that Sarper does that is super, super disturbing, but it feels like Shekinah is into, is his control on her physical being. We've seen in the past that he monitors what she wears, what she eats, her weight. So when we see her with her besties and they're like, girl, we don't see you anymore, she's like, yeah, I have a lot going on. Also, I'm getting a nose job. Did I tell you that Sarper's designing it? And their expression was me. They were like, come again? She's like, yeah, you know, I've been wanting to get a nose job and since he has to look at it, he's gonna design it. Worms for brains. Yeah, I don't really think Shekinah is all the way there, if you ask me. But the final thing that I want to address that I think is going to be another plot point because I'm disturbed by it, are they attempting a redemption arc for Sarper? I say this because I just feel like they're really working overtime to try to humanize this specimen. So particularly they're highlighting his compulsiveness. And they start with him like counting rice grains and talking about when he was a kid, he would count cars. Compulsiveness, OCD, all of that they're real issues. I have a problem with him mentioning those things and being like, and yeah, so that's why I count all the women that I sleep with and I keep tabs on them. And it's like, sir, you can have OCD and be gross. You can be both. Don't try to wrap it up with a bow and be like, I can't help myself. That's not what happened. Not at all. Yeah, I also was thinking that they were trying a redemption arc, or are trying a redemption arc, because they showed him playing with his niece in a tutu, and I'm like, y'all are trying to make this guy a well-rounded little thing because y'all want to keep him. He is your moneymaker because he is what he is. I don't know, that was just a thought. I would love to know what you guys thought about that. Let's move on to the next couple, Josh from South Carolina and Lily from China. When we're introduced to Josh, he's playing with this impressive Lego set, and I know people collect them. I just don't think that I've seen someone of his age playing with them, if you know what I mean. He makes it no secret that he's holding on to his youth, and I think he has met his match in Lily. So what we learned from Josh is that he's been married twice before, and because of that, he really wants this one to work. He wants to be the best that he can be for Lily. Before I get into the red flags, I mean, this may come up. I think that the scene that they showed with his family is very interesting, where he has like a phobia of like sounds and people chewing. And so he's at their house because he sold his own home. He sold all his belongings for his move. But they're really playing into this like child dynamic where he like runs away from the table to get his earphones because he's overstimulated. That isn't the issue. Many people are overstimulated and do things to self-soothe. I just thought it was so disturbing the way they kept zooming into his parents' mouths. I'm like, these people are eating normal. I mean, I guess they shot it that way because they wanted us to feel as uncomfortable as he's feeling. It was still odd. But Josh says that the one person he doesn't mind when they're chewing is Lily. 3 years ago, he met Lily on a language app, and she came to visit him, and they got married 18 days later in Vegas. And even though they met on the language app, her English isn't great and his Mandarin isn't great. So they're going to be depending on an application to communicate when he moves to China. And my thing is, didn't you think that once you started falling in love with someone that you should keep taking lessons to learn? I mean, at this point, those little translator devices are staples in this franchise. So, I mean, I guess. But the reason he's moving to China and she's not coming here is that she has a very successful cosmetic business in China and she's got to make the money, honey. So this leads us to the red flags / possible plot points for them this season. First one being gender roles, okay? He's not going to be able to work when he gets there. Again, he's leaving with nothing. He sold his home, sold his belongings, and he's going to China on the spousal visa. When you are on the spousal visa in China, you cannot work legally. You can't apply for citizenship until 5 years in. So throughout that time, she's going to be the head of their household. And both in his culture and in her culture, that is looked down upon. A man is supposed to provide. And he's nervous about the pushback that she will get, that negative attention, but also it doesn't make him feel good. And he has old wounds of being in relationships where money was an issue and he wasn't able to, provide. And I think that that's in the back of his mind. The move is already big enough. He doesn't want society to look down on him. He doesn't want Lily to look at him differently. And he says that he's in his head about it. He's like, why is she with me? Why is she doing this? Why is she willing to do all this for me? And I want to believe that it's love, right? She's not getting you a green card from you. She actually is well off on her own. So it's not that. Maybe it's the fairy tale love that they say that they want. But this leads us to, I think, the main event, money problems. So we meet Lily in China, and honey, they have directed this like it's an MTV Cribs episode, okay? I was already stunned when I saw the elevator. For me, that's the epitome of wealth, when you have an elevator in your house. So taking a look, I'm like, I think Lily can support a stay-at-home husband with this setup, okay? And so we see her walking around, and I'm like, wait, she has a room just for her beaux. That tells me, one, she's rich. Two, she's also very much in her youthful bag, just like Jason. And she's talking about how she's been busy renovating the place because she wants it to be perfect for when he gets there, because she wants him to see that she loves him, and she's renovated this home theater just for him. I should specify that this isn't a condo. This isn't some rinky-dink house. This is a villa. And so all of this is really thoughtful, but my spidey senses are like, babe, I hope that you are not one of those people that throw in other people's faces the things that you have financially done for them. And it's looking like she is. I say this because they get on a video call and she shows him the place, the progress, and she's like, look, I did this for you. So in his confessional, Josh is like, I was fine living in her apartment and she insisted on renovating this villa. I didn't ask for this. Lily is very direct, and I can tell that she doesn't really hold back, and she's not coy about her money and what she does with it. But I think that us as Americans, we like a little milk in our coffee. We like a little sugar, a little padding. And sometimes that directness can make us a little uncomfortable, right? And she's like, I'm bankrupt renovating, but it's a dream. I love it. And he's like, you're not bankrupt. Bankrupt is when you have no money, and that's not the case. She's like, well, I wasted a lot of money, but it's a dream. It's a dream. And you can see that he's very uncomfortable. I want to believe that it's coming from a good place and not her being like, look at everything I'm doing for you. What are you doing? I hope that that's not the case. I hope that she's just a generous, wealthy baddie because her business is doing well and she has let us know that. But yeah, I foresee this becoming an issue, especially because, again, he has all this trauma from past relationships. And even if Lily isn't actually being on the attack mode, I have a feeling that he's going to be very sensitive to any remark that she makes, and that's going to make him project, and he may sabotage this. He just gives me the vibe that he'll like read into things too much. But then I'm also like, Lily, you're coming on strong, but maybe she's just excited. I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. Let's move on to the next one. Corona. Corona is from Pennsylvania and INGI is from Iceland. From the jump, she's giving me Ashley vibes. I think that she's giving alternative, she's giving witchy, and they both have that same rebellious spirit. You know what I mean? Corona shares that she's practically been on her own since she was 16, and she has made things happen for herself. When we're initially introduced to her, she's doing some interesting movements, and I was like, is this just another cast member on OnlyFans? But it wasn't. She was actually making birthing position videos for her clients because she is a doula and she has a nursing degree and is hoping to get a degree in midwifery. We get a brief story time about how she met INGI. She met INGI when she took a trip to Iceland. She was at a house party. She spotted him. They had an interaction that wasn't so big. But she eventually slipped into his DMs and she was like, why didn't you kiss me? He's like, oh. Then she ended up flying to Ireland. They met up in Ireland and the rest is history. They've been together since. And she says that she cannot be without him. And so she can't stand being far from him. So she's going to move to Iceland. This leads us to red flags and possible plot points. She's making a lot of sacrifices when she has received zero commitment. So we see her with her client / friends, Leo and Christina, and even though she's moving to Iceland, she's gonna fly back to be their doula for the birth of their baby. And I hope Sharp Entertainment cut them a check for providing all the diversity in this one segment. So when she's breaking the news to her friends that she's moving to Iceland, they're like, okay, thank you for coming back for our baby, but what about midwifery? You're in the middle. You got accepted to UPenn. And yeah, you guys, she got accepted to UPenn after applying a few times. UPenn is Ivy League. It's a highly coveted position in their midwifery school. And she's thinking about giving that up to move to Iceland. She's like, yeah, there's only one midwifery school in Iceland. And so, yeah, I'm going to apply. But that's not guaranteed. It's a very small department. The program can't be more than 3 years. You can do that and travel in the meantime. Why deteriorate all of the things that you worked hard for a man? Just take your time. Because if you get that degree in this prestigious university where you've already been accepted, you can work anywhere. Why start at ground zero? Why put yourself through that for someone that hasn't committed to you? Because it's not like they're engaged. That leads us to the next segment. Delusions of grandeur, okay? This man has just told her he loves her. Just. It is early stages of relationship, okay? Boyfriend, girlfriend. They haven't discussed engagement. It's not like it's something that they've talked about and they're like, yeah, we have a timeline. It is not in the ether, okay? And she's willing to leave everything behind. And so this immediately has me thinking, I think she's doing this to force his hand. Well, I left everything behind. What are you going to do for me? Kind of thing. And ultimatums are not for everybody. You will get left. And I just think that she is setting herself up, okay? And probably one of my favorite segments of this episode was when she sees her family and breaks the news to them, because they provided the comedic relief, the realness that I don't think she was ready for. I know that sometimes, there are people that feel like if my family tells me not to do something, I'm going to do it because they don't know me. I feel like she has that kind of relationship. She herself has said that she feels that their bond grows closer the further away she lives. And I'm not going to yuck your yum, you know what I mean? Whatever works for you, whatever keeps you sane. But these women love her, you can tell. And so they're seated around and she's like, yeah, I'm moving to Iceland in a few weeks. And grandma's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Don't be an idiot. No, you're not. There are big personalities in the room. So this can go many ways, okay? But she's like, I don't like him. I don't like, what's his name? Ingi. Corona does expand a little bit. She's like, listen, he has a business out there that's doing well. He visits his family weekly. So it just makes more sense for me, the nomad, to move over there. And she made it seem like this is a conversation that has been had, that they've talked about him moving and it's a no. I don't know about that. I don't think that's happened. You're giving up school? It sounds like you're doing a lot more after him and he's not after you. And I think that that's, again, a big pointer of what the story is going to be this season. Because she's making a lot of decisions and they haven't talked. They haven't planned. This is her big picture. I'm not so sure that this is their big picture, if you know what I mean. Yeah, they let her have it. They're like, you are going after someone, you're giving up a lot without a ring? Why would you do that? You guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I love these ladies. I think that this was so refreshing. I feel like often we see so many family members and friends enable people's delusion. And I feel like you can't say we didn't warn you. And I know that long distance relationships to many families are like, why would you do that? But hearing it out loud that Ingi and Corona have only been together at max 20 days and she's trying to move, they're like, you don't know him. He doesn't know you. And we get a little more insight on that too, in that she really hasn't been her full self. And how could you be when you've been with someone less than a year? Like, you can't possibly fully know someone in that amount of time. But it also sounds like she's been performing for him. She's been like, yeah, I've been gentle parenting him, in that she hasn't shown him how she gets really when she's angry. And apparently our girl has an anger problem. And I don't think that's going to go well when they're in person and she unleashes that and he's going to be like, who is this person? I mean, he doesn't know her personality. She doesn't even know his last name. Like, you're going to move to Iceland and you don't even know this man's full name?
What's his last name? What's his date of birth?
Ingi what?
So it's kind of confusing because in Iceland, like, you take your father's first name as your last name, but then he also has a family name.
She don't know his last name.
So what is on his driver's license?
I don't know, I've never seen it.
Girl, wake up. Why is it on this show that it's always the very book smart women making the stupidest of moves? It's like, where did you waste all your logic in academia? Like, you forgot it in life skills? Also, there's like no sense of caution in her body. She's only ever been with this man in person 20 days. I love that her mom was like, he could be a serial killer. I mean, they're always nice in those documentaries, but you never know. And touche. These documentaries have me looking at everybody different. So I get it. People are crazy.
But you don't know that he ain't a killer.
He's not a killer.
Everybody on the news, they be like, ain't nothing wrong with him. They always show pictures smiling, and then their ass is dead.
But the last red flag for now with this couple is, again, along with delusion, the diversity issue in Iceland. I don't think she's going to assimilate as smoothly as she thinks she is. She says that there's like 5 Black people there, and I'm like, I think that after a while wears at your soul if you don't find community, you know? Because who's to say that those 5 Black people are gonna like you and you're gonna like them? You need community, especially being so far from home.
It's not as diverse as the States are, obviously. There's like 5 Black people in Iceland.
Well, again, I ask myself, why not visit Iceland a few times and scope out the situation before you move and feel stuck? Overall, I just don't feel like she's really done her research on where she's moving to, what she can do with her life, the opportunities that are actually feasible and at her reach. Yeah, I think that this is bound to be a mess. I can't wait to meet Ingi in person to get his perspective on the situation and what his intentions are. But I think that this person, Corona, can be summed up perfectly by her own mother. People can warn her all they want, but when she has her mind made up, there's nothing you can do to change that. And I think that we're seeing that. And so those were the only couples that were introduced to us this first episode. There are going to be 2 more couples. There's Joanne from New York and Sean from Ireland. We saw a little bit of them in the teaser. He's the man that purposely goes after cougars, Italian cougars. And she didn't tell her family that they were already married before her move, so it's going to be a whole mess. We're also going to see Statler from Texas and Dempsey from England. We've seen them before in The Other Way, and this time we're going to follow them in their van life. However, there's been a lot of lesbian drama with these two because on social media, Statler has basically outed Dempsey for cheating, for stealing, I guess, allegedly money from her. And yeah, it's going to be a mess for sure. But yeah, I would love to know what you guys thought about these couples. Who are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.